I would like to present to you today that the battle with communism is not over. However, last decade, economics dealt much with the Marxist form of communism. But I think in our modern age, and hopefully just within this decade, we have a different type of communism to deal with. And that is the neoliberal communism, or more specifically, the neoliberal depression state, which is a rejection of beauty and art and an embrace of despair or depression or ugliness. So I would like to begin by elaborating on what I think art can be understood as in a praxeological framework, where in Human Action, Mises discusses different types of labor, and he talks about works of the creative genius or the artist who create their good or service, even if they arrive at their own destruction. Or in other words, they don't do it seeking a reward. And I think understanding capitalism and markets, this is a type of society where people are creating goods and services with the expectation of a reward, and that's the profit and loss mechanism and signaling people what to produce. But when it comes to statism and the bureaucracy, this is a system where people are producing bads and they expect a full reward, or perhaps worse, not producing anything at all, but still with the expectation of a reward. So I think that this neoliberal communism that we have to deal with is founded purely upon our modern monetary policy, and this is the fiat economy, where with the Cantillon effects, creating new money, they're able to distribute it to the ends that they would prefer. The banks receive the new money gets loaned out to the friends of the banks, and so this system incentivizes higher time preferences due to the fact that people can receive the new money and create products, specifically in architecture, that are quickly able to turn a profit. So what I mean by this is that we have all the technology to create, these architectural designs of the Sistine Chapel, yet we don't see it. And specifically in the US, where the regulatory state and the laws of zoning really constrict producers of architectures and buildings to specific zones. And I think that there are nefarious effects of this. But more specifically, in the business cycle theory, Mises talks about how what happens is, let's say a builder uses bricks and he doesn't have enough bricks to finish the projects. But what about the projects that he previously was able to complete? And what do those look like? And what are the effects of those products? And I think that is what we face today is this shoebox style buildings where every city in the US almost looks identical. Of course, you have the ones that stand out, but if you get dropped into a downtown of like Indianapolis, it's hard to tell which city you're in because the streets are planned, and we have these urban planners, and the urban planners are really like social engineers. They're saying where people will live, what type of environment they will live in, and this has produced this sentiment of difficulty being attached to one's own city. Moreover, in the construction of apartment buildings, we have this style called designer chic. And designer chic is made, it's the worst parts of capitalism, where capitalism being mass production for the masses, these apartment buildings are mass production for the masses, but it's subsidized by the incentive to just produce cheap housing. So it's low-cost materials because it's easy to ship and produce, and it creates this boring type of environment. Moreover, the cities are not designed so much for people to walk in as much as they are to I guess, relocate from the suburbs into the cities or where people work. And I think economists such as Jane Jacobs and Jeffrey Hummel have written about this phenomenon. So we have this architectural opportunity cost, where instead of constructing beautiful works of art, we're constructing things that are taking up space and are not beautiful. They're ugly. This shoebox style society of real estate is also gunmetal gray or tan. It's very boring. And so I also think that the COVID effects have also encouraged this, where we just deem things what are essential. And we go based off that. So it's very much a high time preference of how do we get through today rather than planning for the future of tomorrow. And that has sacrificed or contributed to this nihilistic atmosphere that a lot of people have faced. So essentially what I'm trying to answer is what is going on today. We can look at hard money as being the connector to beauty and art, because art and architecture has gone hand in hand with strong economies. For example, the Renaissance period. But more primitive societies don't produce magnificent works of art. Moreover, it is this cheap money environment that has led to this inflated creation of bureaucracy and statism. And moreover, after the war period of World War II, we had the Bauhaus movement in Germany, and this led to the brutalist movement, which is just an essential, boring building, but something that can be bombable, something that can be temporary, because if we live in a war influenced society, then why would we ever try to encourage longevity or tradition? It would actually make sense for us to just produce these bombable, replaceable buildings. And so, yes, this has all gone in part towards the creation of this brutalist or ugly architecture. And I guess to elaborate a little bit further, with inflation, it's like the unseen hidden tax. But the upward influence of productivity of technology allows us to create more things. So people may say, well, post-technological revolution, we do have beautiful things. But I think we'd have more beautiful things if we obviously removed the inflationary aspect of our society. So what has gone unseen is the things we have not been able to produce under this type of society. And then, so for example, with like music, the technology has come around to undermine the music industry, where people on their own with a laptop can make beautiful music. So that's a little bit hard of field to understand how economics influences, but the cost of making music has gone down tremendously with the digital revolution. So I'm trying to focus more on the architecture, because what this neoliberalism, communism really is a rejection of physical reality. And in a way, it's just a preparation for this new austerity that is harsh, that is the new normal. And I think the duty of economists now is not to specialize into, theories of the past, but I think we have a great opportunity to really work on how understanding economics and economic literacy can contribute to understanding what is actually going on in society. Because if ugliness is this disease, who else but economists are able to diagnose and teach people about this disease? Because sociologists will tell you it's all a matter of race, or the anthropologists will give you another explanation. But only in economics can we understand how wealth is created, how things like beauty and art are created, because as human beings, we aren't purely acting in the world in a praxeological manner. We have our psychologies, we have our emotions, and these are affected by our surroundings. If we lived in a society that the state would desire, which would be schools and prisons, schools being day prisons for children, it would be a very unfortunate and ugly world, and be very difficult for people to attach themselves to. So I think this, in essence, contributes to the rise of dissociation, especially in the younger generations. And again, this is all, I believe, founded upon our modern monetary system. So the solution is simple. It's a rejection of the modern fiat economic environment and a repealing of the legal tender laws and embracing a market for money. And I think that will help actually recreate society both physically and spiritually. And that is all I'd like to say. Thank you very much.